Well, let's unpack the story further. Joining us this afternoon is Joburg Mayor Dada Morero. Mr. Mayor, thanks very much for your time here on 405. I mean, it's quite an indictment on the city, isn't it, that more than a year after that gas explosion, it still hasn't been fixed.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity. You are aware that, as you say, it's over a year. There were processes that had to be undertaken. One was a process to conclude the investigation where we needed to determine what was the cause of the explosion. And that process was concluded, and eventually a contractor was put in place. You first had to appoint a contractor that was going to assess the level of the damage so that you are able to prepare the necessary BOQs so that you can then appoint an actual implementation agent or a contractor. That process was then completed almost late last year, and a contractor was put in place. The contractor appointed has therefore breached the agreements with the city of Johannesburg in terms of what was supposed to have been delivered and the milestones that the contractor was supposed to have reached and accomplished and achieved. And on the basis of that, then the Johannesburg Road Agency had to terminate the contract, which only happened just around last month or 2 months ago, which then meant you then have to take the number two company during your evaluation, a bid evaluation process. So certainly the next company was then appointed, which is now in place. And that company will then have to start. And we have made it clear that we need to ensure that the speed in which they deliver so that we can conclude this project as quickly as possible. We are alive to the fact that it has a bad effect in as far as the economy is concerned. It's affecting our economy quite seriously. It's affecting the movement of people and goods. And we think it's necessary that we should conclude the project. And we want to appeal in particular to the residents in the inner city and those that use the transport route to exercise and give us an opportunity to conclude. We know that it's an inconvenience and it has been too long. We want to conclude the project as soon as possible. So we are appealing to the communities to give us more time, and we will deliver on the project as soon as possible.
Yeah. So the initial deadline for the repair was going to be December of this year. If all goes according to plan with the new contractor, it's now June 2026. That's a situation that's untenable, isn't it, Mr. Mayor? For a city of Johannesburg, which is supposed to be, you know, a key city on the African continent, for us to take 3 years to repair this road.
We do agree with you that, remember, the city had done what it needed to be done, but those that were then appointed to do the job would have then failed, which then forced the city of Johannesburg to undergo a new process to appoint a new company. Had that company not failed the residents of Johannesburg, I don't think would be where we are now. And remember, every contract is being contract managed by the city, and that is why the city was able to pick up that this company will not be able to deliver because they failed to meet certain milestones in the project, and which then resulted in the city taking that decision.
Yeah.
And as I said, we do apologize to our residents. We apologize to the people in the inner city in particular for the delays, and of course, businesses and property owners in the inner city. We will do our level best to push and ensure that the new company in place or the contractor in place will move with much needed speed so that we can conclude the project of course, by 2025 June, so that by then we can then avail the delivered project.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, is it June 2025 or 2026?
No, I think we'll push it to next year, 2025, and not stretch it to 2026, So it will require us to do certain things with the company that's in place so that by 2025, June, August, we are able to conclude on the project.
You know, Mr. Mayor, you said that sorry for interrupting you there. You said that the company failed the city of Johannesburg, the company that was initially appointed to do this repair, that they failed the city of Johannesburg. But would you not say that it's actually a failure of the city's checks and balances that is the failure here? I mean, this contractor is alleged to have defrauded the city of City Power of 94 million.
The city came to a conclusion that they were unable to deliver on the milestones that were given to them by the city of Johannesburg.
But they're also alleged to have defrauded City Power.
If you go to that process of what happened at City Power and what happened at JRA, you'll get a completely different report. Because the company as appointed at City Power is not the same as the company appointed at JRA. In terms of the papers that were submitted when they were responding to the process of the supply chain processes of the city. And it might not be correct for us to still try to cling to that issue because paperwork at our disposal speaks a different story of what we had at City Power and what you currently have at JRA. So it will not be something that is conclusive for us to have acted differently, but our checks and balances were based on paperwork that gets submitted as and when you conduct a tender, and there was no indication that suggests that the same director at City Power is the same directors in the company. We are acting on the basis of the milestones that this company was unable to meet. And that is why we want to close the story at that level, so that we can then move forward and get the new company to do the work that needs to be done, and we can deliver on the mandate to the residents of Johannesburg.
So you're happy now that the process to appoint a new contractor has gone smoothly? You're happy with the vetting process and that everything is in order?
We have received a report last week by the CEO of JRA that they are now at an advanced stage and they are happy with the process that they went through, and they believe, remember this number 2 company also went through a process of bid evaluation and bid assessment. So certainly all checks and balances would have been done then. They probably came number 2 on the basis of pricing or something. I do not know, because we don't get involved as councillors in supply chain processes. But the report indicates that the company has the necessary abilities to can deliver on the project.
And then for residents, for businesses, businesses who have been operating on what was formerly Bree Street for many, many years, some of them report to now have let some of their employees go because obviously they're not getting the same kind of turnover that they ordinarily would. People who have lived on the street for many years, they continue to pay rent in apartments where they're unable to live. What else do we do in a situation like this other than offer them an apology?
And remember, we can't pretend as if there was no disaster. There was a disaster. There was an explosion, which was never expected or planned. And as a result of a disaster, unfortunately, all of us will be affected as we attempt to resolve and find an everlasting solution by rebuilding the road, and over and above, also bringing a complete street program to ensure that the road is much more accessible and livable, especially to the residents that already live in that street. And that is why we're even reducing the number of lanes and extending the pavements so that we can ensure that businesses have a better look, lookable space. Residents there will also have much bigger spaces for them to be able to move much better and freely. So we are trying to do a whole lot of things in that street to ensure that we deliver a product that will create livable spaces for the people in the area.
All right, Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero, let me thank you for your time this afternoon, sir.
Thank you so much.
it's over a year now since that explosion on what was formerly Bree Street, a commitment there by the new Johannesburg mayor that repairs will be completed by, I think he said, July or August of 2025. So we have to have that discussion with the mayor when the time comes.